finished going over the photographs from the search warrant and indicated that you were able to determine who the owner of several of the firearms were.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on the name that was on board the firearms as well as your investigation. What else did you do in connection with this investigation?
After the search warrant was done and these guns were recovered, the sheriff's office published a photo in the paper, referenced the guns recovered, and I obtained received a phone call from Mr. Stangeland, reference the identification on one of the handguns in this photo.
And is that the same photograph that I showed you earlier that's been on S-152?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the photograph that was published?
Yes, ma'am.
And was Mr. Scammell able to identify any of those weapons?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Scammell identified the Western style revolver that's sitting on top of the boxes.
And is that this one right here, if you look at the screen?
It'd be the top one, ma'am.
Top one?
That one right there. He identified that pistol as one of the guns that one of the suspects had in the home invasion at his residence in 2009.
Is that the only weapon that was identified through the publication?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, after that search warrant, which was in January 11th of 2010, what else, if anything, did you do in connection with your investigation? What was the status of your investigation?
Basically, I followed up on any other information that had anything to do with the Scammell home invasion, such as tying up any loose ends or anything like that that needed to be followed up on.
And did you conduct any interviews?
Yes, ma'am. Would have been, I believe it's November 18th, or January 18th, 2010. Steve Sloop and I went back and spoke to Doug Stangeland while he was at the Vernon County Jail in reference to trying to obtain information on some evidence from the Scammell home invasion.
To your knowledge, was that interview recorded?
I don't believe it was, ma'am, at that time.
And what date did you say that was?
I believe it would have been the 18th of January 2010.
And what was the nature of that interview?
Was trying to obtain information on what might have happened to the shotgun shell from the Scammell residence, since we had found out that Chuck Scammell had been shot with a shotgun. And we were also, based on the information that we had from Chuck Scammell, that he believed that the suspect that shot him had a pistol grip shotgun, and we were trying to obtain the location of that pistol grip shotgun.
And what information did you receive?
Doug Stangeland stated that he had picked up the shell after it ejected from the gun, and that it was lost in the cornfield, which would have been east and south of the Scammell residence. That on the night of the home invasion at the Scammell's house.
And did you get any information regarding that weapon, the pistol that you mentioned?
I don't recall what the information was on the gun.
Through the course of your investigation, did you ever meet with Charles Scammell?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
On how many occasions were you guests?
I know Steve and I, we interviewed him, that we did record the interview, and I might have talked to him one time on the phone, and I really don't recall any other time I had contact with him.
And the interview that you just mentioned that you believe was recorded, was that in January 2010, or was that closer to the publication date?
I believe that would have been in November of 2009, I believe is when that was.
And what was the purpose of that interview?
I think we were trying to get some more information from Mr. Scammell reference, why these guys might have been in his house, trying to obtain money and information on a Jeff Moeller from somewhere that Mr. Scammell supposedly knew.
After speaking with Mr. Stangeland, you said that was in November?
Yes, I believe that was the 23rd of November 2009, according to my report.
Did there come a time in January 2010 where you met with Mr. Stangeland again?
Yes, I did. Would have been January 11th, 2010.
To your knowledge, was that interview recorded?
Yes, it was. And I do apologize. The interview in November was not recorded. The interview in January was.
And what was the nature of the interview in January 2010?
Just trying to follow up more information on basically why the home invasion and stuff happened to Mr. Scammell and any other people that might have been involved in it.
Did you do anything else in connection with this investigation?
Not that I can recall, ma'am.
Thank you. Those are the only questions I have today.
Mr. Morrison.
Thank you.
Did your investigation then end, Lieutenant, with that interview of Mr. Scammell in January 2010?
According to my report, I had contact with Kim Hunter on the 14th of January 2010.
You described Kim Hunter as being one of the individuals who was pictured in a photograph that was shown in evidence, correct?
Yes, sir.
And did she have a relationship to any of the people involved in this case?
The way I understood it, she was a girlfriend of Billy Barker's.
And when you interviewed her, could you tell me where she was living?
I don't believe I interviewed her, sir. I spoke to her. She had brought a briefcase in to the sheriff's office that she had found in a vehicle at Mr. Stangeland's residence.
And the briefcase belonged to?
Billy Barker.
Now, let me step back to your investigation at the home invasion. That would have been back in, November 9th or so of 2009.
Yes, sir.
And you were not the lead investigator on that initially, am I correct?
I believe I was that night, yes, sir.
Okay, and what about Sheriff Peckman? He was there, you said, right?
Sheriff Peckman got to the scene before I did, yes.
And he would be a senior officer to you in the Sheriff's Department at that time, am I correct?
Yes, he was my boss.
Okay. And was the investigation at some point in time turned over to you?
The way we worked at that time, sir, is if we had a major crime, the sheriff normally responded to the scene, and we would start working it. And as the sheriff being the administrator of the office, he would designate duties for each of the officers to do, and if we needed assistance or whatever, he would then assist us with the crime scenes or whatever we needed at that time, sir.
I see. In connection with your investigation, at some point in time, Mr. Scammell or his family contacted you about a tag for a Walmart purchase that had been found somewhere, correct?
Correct, sir.
And you didn't find it yourself, did you?
No, sir. The information, I'd gotten a call from Sheriff Peckman advising that he'd been contacted by the Scammels, that somebody had located a Walmart tag in the field, I believe east and south of the residence, of the Scammel residence, and that they had picked it up and put it in a bag.
I see. You, of your own knowledge, don't know where that tag came from, am I correct?
No, sir. I believe my report says, it said the tag was found south and east of the residence in the field.
Now, you interviewed Charles Scammell, I believe you referred to him as Chuck.
Yes, sir.
Did you know him before this occasion?
No, sir. I've never met the man.
And the reason you call him Chuck is because you were told to call him that?
He preferred, his name is Charles, but he prefers to be called Chuck Scammell.
I see. You interviewed him after he had gotten out of the hospital, as I recall, and that's the one that was not recorded?
Yes, sir.
You wrote a report about it, though, am I correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And in that report, I believe you referred to the individuals who Mr. Scammell told you were present that night at the home invasion, correct?
Correct, sir.
And you described them basically because you don't have names at that time, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And could you tell me whether one of them was described as the bigger guy? To that effect?
According to my report, it says suspect number 2 was a bigger man, possibly 6'2" to 6'3", wearing a camo jacket, blue jeans, low-cut work boots, possible brown in color, newer-looking boots, wearing possible brown jersey gloves. He also had sandy-colored hair sticking out from underneath the ski mask, armed with a pistol grip shotgun.
Okay. And the number 1 individual who was described to you, suspect that was described to you, could you give me what your description was there?
Described it as 5'6" to 5'7", 210 to 220 pounds, stocky build, wearing a blue pullover, short sleeve shirt, blue jeans, black possible cowboy type boots, possible gloves sticking out of the back pocket, a ski mask, and was also armed with a pistol grip shotgun.
How about the 3rd individual?
The 3rd individual was possible younger man, thin build, wearing possible all camo clothing and armed with a skinny, long barreled revolver, wearing white type tennis shoes.
Okay. Now, ultimately, in your investigation, you determined which of the individuals you assigned to those identities. Am I correct?
That was after we had received information from Miller County about the arrests that were made there.
And interviewed Mr. Stangeland, correct?
I personally didn't,
Okay.
but Mr. Stangeland was interviewed about the home invasion.
And because of information that was provided to you, you determined who those 3 individuals were, at least in your mind, from your investigation. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And who did you identify, number 1, the smaller of the 2 adults?
In my opinion, subject number 1, the 5'6" to 5'7" gentleman would have been Lonnie Swingers.
Okay. And what about gentleman number 2? Who did you believe that to be?
Subject number 2, the 6'2", 6'3" individual would have been Doug Stangeland.
Okay. And the 3rd one would have been Mr. Waddell.
Yes, sir.
Now, in that same report, you referred to a statement that was made to you by Mr. Scammell with regard to the person who shot him. Am I correct?
Correct.
Could you tell me what you wrote in your report concerning that issue?
I don't remember exactly what I wrote. I'm trying to find
Okay.
what I wrote down. I mean, I've got a rough idea. Actually, I believe that is going to be, I think what the answer you're looking for is actually in the second interview, that Steve Sloop and I conducted.
In the interview that was not recorded with Mr. Scammell, could you tell me, on page 3, we'll call it the third full paragraph, could you tell me what Mr. Scammell told you?
Is that right above where it says,
Begins, it's the third full paragraph. Charles further stated that the bigger suspect.
Charles further stated that he thought the shorter guy was in charge? Is that the paragraph you're talking about, sir?
One on page 3 of your report, which was dated the 23rd of November.
Remember, if it helps for the board, the pages are numbered on the top. They are sequential.
Page 11, is that the page you're talking about, sir?
Okay, let me look.
Are you talking about this one right here? This paragraph right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I apologize.
Could you read that paragraph into the record, please?
Charles further stated that the bigger suspect always kept his finger outside the trigger guard and the gun was in his left hand. The smaller suspect kept the gun in his right hand and had his finger on the trigger the whole time during the assault.
I need a moment, Judge, I'm sorry. On that same report, officer, if you have it, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
Could we go closer to the beginning of the report?
Can we approach?
I think we're going to reapproach it in a slightly different format, so stand by.
Lieutenant, you, on the 23rd of November 2009, you interviewed Mr. Charles Scammell, correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scammell made certain statements to you in connection with that interview, am I correct?
Correct, sir.
And as a result of it, you recorded those statements in an official report referred to as incident supplement, am I correct?
Correct, sir.
And you had an opportunity to review that report before you came to court today, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I have.
Aside from the report, do you have an independent recollection of the things that Mr. Scammell had told you in connection with that interview?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Do you have a recollection that Mr. Scammell advised you as to who had shot him? And you recorded it in your report?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Could you tell me what your recollection of what Mr. Scammell told you with regard to the individual who shot him was?
At that point in time, Mr. Scammell believed that he was shot by the shorter suspect. And I do recall it is in that report.
And although it was not recorded, you prepared this report shortly after your interview, I assume, with Mr. Scammell?
Probably within 24 hours, yes.
And therefore, your recollection of what Mr. Scammell would have told you would have been clear in your mind, am I correct?
Correct, sir.
And at that time, you recorded in your report the statement that Mr. Scammell had given you, and you've had an opportunity to review that, correct?
Correct, sir.
You don't need your report to refresh your recollection that he told you that.
I do remember that conversation, yes, sir.
Now, do you have a recollection of then interviewing Mr. Scammell again in January of 2010?
I do remember, yes, there was a second interview.
And was that after the arrest of the 3 individuals, including Mr. Stangeland?
I believe it was, yes, sir.
And had you gone to the Lake Ozark Police Department at any time in connection with the investigation there?
No, sir, I did not.
With regard to your interview of Mr. Scammell, you were already then aware of the identity of 3 individuals who had been involved in that arrest, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. When you interviewed with Mr. Scammell, did the issue again come up with regard to who shot him?
I don't recall, sir. I'd have to look at my report real fast.
Have you had an opportunity to review the recording, the audio recording of that interview that you had with Mr. Scammell that day in January?
No, sir, I have not. I have not reviewed that recording.
Would the audio recording accurately reflect what took place that particular day of that interview?
Yes, sir, it will.
To your knowledge, was it ever reduced to a transcript, a written transcript?
To my knowledge, no, sir.
The fact that a statement made by Mr. Scammell might not be included in your report does not mean that the statement might not have been made by Mr. Scammell, however, am I correct?
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Assuming that there is something on the audio recording of your interview,
Correct.
which is not included in your report, correct? Assume that happened.
And that's possible, yes.
Okay, that is possible. That was
Because
my question.
when I interview a person and I'm recording it, and my report doesn't say so, but not everything that is said during that interview is actually put in the report. There might be some small things left out. That's why we put down that the interview was recorded. So if need be, other information to be obtained from it.
Do you have a recollection of Mr. Scammell telling you in January of 2010 who it was he thought had shot him back in November of 2009?
I believe he said that it was the smaller suspect that he believed is the one who shot him.
That would have been Mr. Swarm.
Yes.
With regard to the execution of the search warrant that took place at Mr. Stangeland's residence,
Correct.
you arrived when the search warrant was being executed, as they say?
Yes, sir.
And executed means that the group of people arrived there, announced themselves, show the warrant to whoever might be present, and then commence doing the search, correct?
Correct.
And were you a lead officer at that search warrant execution, or were you there for purposes of recording evidence and collecting evidence?
I didn't technically have an assigned duty at that time. Well, we rolled in to the property. We exited the vehicles. I noticed a subject coming out of one of the outbuildings on the property. I secured him at that time. The other officers went towards the residence to secure the folks inside. Then after we had everybody secure, then we went in. I started photographing items and stuff like that.
Do you recollect what day that was?
I believe it was January 11th, 2010.
Do you have a recollection of whether Mr. Stangeland was there at his residence?
No, he was not there.
Do you have a recollection of whether his son, who you described from a picture, was there?
No, sir, I do not recall.
Could you tell me if you have a recollection of the persons who were present?
The gentleman that I have secured outside the residence, his name was Wyatt Wentworth. I believe Billy Barger was at the residence. I believe Kim Hunter was at the residence. And I believe there was a couple other kids at the house, but I'm not sure who they were.
Was I'm sorry, I don't know his rank, but Officer Schlup, Detective Schlup, was he involved in that execution of that search warrant?
I don't remember whether Steve went that night or not.
Ultimately, you were the one who served Billy Barger with a warrant for his arrest, am I correct?
I probably read the warrant to him, yes, I don't recall reading it. But if my signature was on the warrant, then yes, I read it to him.
When you arrived at the house, could you tell me the whereabouts of Mr. Barger in the house?
No, sir, because like I said, when part of the officers went to the house and went inside the house, I was outside with another subject,
I see.
and I was securing him at the time.
The items that you photographed, which we went through item by photograph, and you said they were found at certain locations in the house. They were pointed out to you, I assume, by some other investigator?
Or another deputy, yes.
Okay. It wasn't that you selected the items to be photographed, correct?
No, I don't recall who pointed the items out.
Do you recall where the plat maps, as you referred to them, were found?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you recall where the envelope containing an address of William Barger, which was photographed, is found?
Can I refer back to the photo for a second?
Please do that. Let's identify it. I'm sorry.
S-135.
You talking about that piece of mail right there with Billy Barton?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That piece of mail was obtained out of that plastic bag, out of that dresser drawer, I believe, in the master bedroom of the residence.
Did you do that?
Did I do what, sir?
Did you remove it from the plastic bag?
Actually, what I did is, that's an overall photo of what's in the bag and you're not able to read the name. So yes, it was probably moved a little bit so I could re-photograph it to get the name off the envelope on it.
Okay. That plastic bag was found in that piece of furniture.
And that piece of furniture, just like that.
Could you just hold it in the direction of your, okay. It's okay. No. And in what room in the house was that piece of furniture?
I'm wanting to say the master bedroom, but I could be wrong on the exact location of that.
From your investigation, did you determine who lived in the master bedroom?
I believe it was actually Billy Barger and Kim Hunter.
But you referred to it as the Stangeland residence.
Yes, sir.
And
I don't, information that I was told by one of the other officers, and I don't remember which officer it was, that,
why don't you just tell us what you know, not what somebody told you?
okay.
With regard to that particular day when you executed the search warrant, you knew Mr. Stangeland, you said, before that occasion, correct?
Correct.
Professionally and perhaps socially, you knew him?
Yeah, when I seen him, I talked to him.
And with regard to Mr. Stangeland, you knew he also has a father, correct? Or he had a father. His father's passed away.
I knew Doug had a father, yes, sir.
Okay. Did you know his father?
I don't think I ever met the gentleman.
And when you got to that house and you executed the search warrant and you were asked to photograph things, you indicated you didn't find any firearms whatsoever in the house. Is that correct?
I do not recall any firearms being found at that house, no.
But you did find what are traditionally called a gun safe at the location.
Yes, sir.
And the larger of them certainly is for rifles, correct?
Rifles and shotguns, yes, sir.
And there was nothing in them.
I don't believe so.
The boxes that you photographed in the garage, there were 4 of them stacked up. I know one said Winchester on it.
Correct, sir.
Did you go in the boxes to see whether or not there were live rounds in there?
No, sir, I did not.
You said there was a box with clay pigeons in it in the area too, correct?
Well, yes, sir, that's what I said. And I believe the box actually shows a clay pigeon on the outside, and that's what I was referring to, that it was a box that clay pigeons were either in or had been in.
So you didn't open any of those containers?
Not that I recall, no, sir.
Knowing Doug Stangeland from previous relationship, knowing him from the town, small town, 8,000 people,
Correct, sir.
you knew that he had firearms, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that he was a person who basically was a skeet shooter, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you, I assume, expected to find some firearms in the house, correct?
Yes, sir. We expected to find firearms at the residence.
With regard to the book that was about Ralph Sonny Barger, where was that found in the house?
I don't have any idea, sir.
What about the picture of Sonny Barger? Where was that?
I do not recall.
Um,
That information is probably, the location of these items would probably be on the return of the search warrant that was completed. Because normally when we collect items, we write down the location where the items were recovered at.
right,
And I didn't complete the return, so I'm not exactly 100% sure.
just photographed it.
I just photographed things, yes, sir.
So if I ask you about the small business cards that said Monk Barger on them, you don't know where they were found in the house?
I don't recall off the top of my head, no, sir.
Okay. At some point in time, another search warrant is executed, and you participate in that at another location in Nevada, correct?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
That I
So,
recall.
okay, the one where the guns were found and then later photographed at the sheriff's department, you didn't participate in that?
No, sir. All I did was help put those guns into evidence. I believe Chief Deputy Justin Moreland, Task Force Officer Will Perryman, and I believe one other officer, and I'm not sure who that was, went to that residence in Nevada, and I believe they knocked on the door and was given and asked about the guns, and they were given to them. I don't think a search warrant was completed on that residence.
I see. But those guns that are shown in the photograph that ultimately appears in a newspaper, and Mr. Scammell identifies, those guns were found in a location other than the Doug Stangeland residence, correct?
Correct. We had gotten information that prior to us executing the search warrant, those guns had been removed from the Stangeland residence. I believe on the same day that we executed the search warrant.
Did your information indicate that Mr. Stangeland had directed that the guns be removed?
I believe my report states that Billy Barger removed the guns from the Stangeland residence.
With regard to your further investigation of the matter, you interviewed Mr. Stangeland at some point in time at the Vernon County Sheriff's Department, am I correct?
I went back and asked him a couple questions. I don't know whether technically an interview, but I went back and asked him about the shotgun shell and the shotgun.
And he answered you with regard to what happened to the shotgun, am I correct?
It's not in my report what he told me about the shotgun, I don't believe. He told me what he did with the shotgun shell, or what happened to the shotgun shell.
What was the date that you interviewed him?
Would have been, I believe, the 18th of January. Would have been page number 60 on my reports, would have been supplemental.
Show me what you're referring to.
Right there, sir.
The report is marked as,
Page 60 right there, supplemental number 26.
referring you to your report. Could you read the last page of it?
You want the whole report read, sir?
No, I just want you to read it to yourself.
Okay. Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what Mr. Stangeland told you happened with regard to the shotgun and the other guns involved?
Yes, sir. I understand what you're asking.
What is your recollection of what Mr. Stangeland told you?
Mr. Stangeland stated that he'd given all the guns back to Billy Barger?
And you recorded that in your report, correct?
Yes, sir.
It was S-136, I believe, was marked. It's a picture of a memo that you photographed of a transfer of a gun.
Yes, sir.
And you took that photograph, you said, correct?
I believe I did, yes, sir.
And I assume you laid it down on the table or something and photographed it.
Probably, yes, sir. Or somebody else had laid it on a photograph or on a table and told me to take a photo of it, and that's what I did, sir.
You don't know where that was found in the residence, I assume.
I have no idea, sir.
With regard to that document, it bears a couple names. Obviously, you've already mentioned Kim Hunter. She's mentioned in that document, correct?
Correct.
Does it also mention another individual?
Yes, it does.
And what individual does it mention?
His name is Phil Lucero, I believe is the correct pronunciation.
Do you know that individual?
I know of him.
Was he present at the time the search warrant was executed?
I don't recall, sir. I don't believe he was, but I'm not, I can't say either way.
And that refers to a specific handgun, am I correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Serial number there?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't find that handgun at any time in the residence, correct?
I don't recall finding the handgun, no, sir.
What type of handgun does it describe?
It describes a 45 long Colt. It's a Bond Arms Model Defender pistol. I think I have seen the gun, I believe. I believe the gun is in the custody of the Bates County Sheriff's Office in Butler, Missouri.
I see.
I think I remember the gun. It's a black in color steel two-barrel pistol, I believe.
Now, prior to the Scammell incident, which occurred on the 9th of November 2009, did you know Billy Barger?
I had contact with Mr. Barger at 2 different times since 2000, since July 2000, while I was employed at the Sheriff's Office in Vernon County.
And were you involved at all in a meeting or an investigation concerning threats by Mr. Barger upon Deputy Sheriff Borland from Bates County?
No, sir, it was not.
Were you aware of the threats?
Something had been mentioned, but as far as any details on that, no, sir, I didn't have any of the details.
There were a couple of emails that were found, particularly, I think, referred to as S-138 and 139 that you photographed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know where they were found?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you know whether or not they were contained in that plastic bag that was in the master bedroom, in the piece of furniture that I described?
It's possible, but I honestly can't say for sure.
You took the photographs, however.
Yes, sir.
And those photographs depict emails that are directed to a particular individual, am I correct?
It appears to be, yes, sir.
And they appear to be from someone also, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't know anything about the source of those emails or whether they were ever delivered or what, correct?
No, sir, I do not.
So all you know is that the documents were found within the residence.
Correct.
You have a picture, S-148. Picture of a plastic bag with some ammo in it.
Yes, sir.
Do you know where that was found in the residence?
No, sir, I can't recall where it was found.
You
I have an idea, but I can't say for sure.
do you know who it belongs to?
No, sir.
With regard to that document, when you identified what was shown in it, you indicated that it was handgun ammo.
I believe that to be handgun ammo, yes, sir.
Be able to determine what gauge or caliber it would be?
Based on my training and experience that I've had with handguns throughout the years, I'd say that's probably .357, .38 caliber ammo. I don't believe it's larger than that. It appears to be a jacketed hollow point round.
With regard to the photograph that you had that appeared in the newspaper or the various weapons that were removed from the location, I believe it was 6th Street, Nevada?
It was 303 East Walnut Street in Nevada, Missouri.
Okay. The picture, that photograph that you looked at, you said that it appeared to have the weapon that Mr. Scammell identified to you as the one that one of the individuals had with him at the home invasion?
Correct, sir.
And that would be the one on the top, the Western style gun, am I correct?
Correct, sir.
And that's a revolver?
Yes, sir.
And are you able to determine what the caliber of that gun is?
Not off the top of my head. I can't remember what caliber that gun is.
And in that picture, nowhere, including what you later saw inside the cases, was there either of the two sawed-off shotguns, am I correct?
Well, actually, the one gun sitting here in front of the case is actually considered a sawed-off shotgun because the barrel's under length. The barrel's shorter than 18 inches. The stock on this one shotgun, which the picture does not show, has actually also been shortened. So technically, this one shotgun right here in this photo could be considered a sawed-off shotgun.
I see, that's in the front.
Right.
Is that a pistol grip on it?
Well, it has a pistol type grip, but it also has a very short wooden part that had been cut off that would normally extend back on further so that you can fire the shotgun from your shoulder. So there's a possibility, depending on how the gun was being held in a person's hand, that it could look like it would be a pistol grip shotgun without the shoulder part of the stock on it.
Mr. Scammell didn't identify that as one of the shotguns he saw, however, am I correct?
I don't believe he did, no, sir.
And at this point in time, there's nothing that would indicate that particular shotgun was one that was used in the Scammell residence, am I correct?
I believe you are, sir.
Was there ever any follow-up with regard to any of those weapons that are depicted in that picture to indicate who the lawful owner of those weapons was, to your knowledge?
No, sir. I don't believe there was any ATF trace forms or anything done on them. Like I said, the one shotgun in the photo, it has a sticker on it that does say Stangeland on it.
Right.
I can't recall whether either one of the two guns in the cases have anything identifying as belonging to Stangeland. But like I said, with the knowledge that, and knowing Doug and having conversations with him, I knew he was a skeet shooter, and the gun in the case, in the brown case, it's a rather expensive type gun used for shooting skeet and stuff like that.
The gun that says Stangeland on it, what kind of gun is that?
It's a 12 gauge pump. I'm not sure what the brand is on it. I believe it's either a Remington or a Winchester.
Is that also the kind of gun that could be used for skeet shooting?
Yes, sir.
And it's certainly not a sawed-off, am I correct?
No, sir. I believe it's got like a 26-inch barrel on it.
Not a pistol grip either, am I correct?
Well, the stocks are designed to have a pistol type handle to them, but they also have the rest of the wood that comes out for a shoulder mount. I mean, they technically have like a pistol grip on them, yes.
Let me take you to one other subject, okay?
Okay.
The Walmart parking lot.
Yes, sir.
You watched the video of a vehicle, and you watched an individual walk out to the vehicle and get into the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
We saw that today here on the screen.
Yes, sir.
With regard to that, can you, of your own knowledge, absolutely identify the individual in that particular video as being Doug Stangeland?
I could probably honestly say yes, that's Doug Stangeland in that video.
You indicated when you were asked by the assistant prosecutor what else you saw in the picture, and you indicated that he was carrying a bag of ice.
Correct.
You didn't indicate that he had anything else with him. Am I correct?
No, I did not indicate anything else. I know in one of my reports, it states that it looked like he was buying bags of sugar and then also ice also. But from what I seen in the video, him walking to the vehicle, I could see the bag of ice in his right hand, if I'm not mistaken. And he set that down and opened the door, then what other items he had in his hand, he placed inside the truck and then picked up the bag of ice again.
You would know what other items he had in his hand from the viewing of the video, am I correct?
I believe it would have been the sugar and stuff that was on at the register.
I see. I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Stand by. Any additional questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, do you want to bring up S-152? Now, is that the photo that you were referring to when Mr. Morrison was questioning you?
Yes,
Referring to the
or yes, ma'am,
weapons?
I'm sorry.
And again, you indicated that there was a shotgun in that photograph that's in front of one of the cases.
Yes, ma'am.
And is that right over here?
That'd be that one right there, yes, ma'am.
And is that the one that you identified could be described as the assault shotgun?
In my opinion, yes, ma'am, I would call that a sawed-off shotgun.
And is that consistent with the description that Mr. Stangeland provided in terms of the gun that he saw during the investigation?
I believe it would be, yes, ma'am.
And is it possible that that was the weapon that was used during that investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
Just one other area. And Detective, if you could go to S-122.
22, you said, ma'am?
Yes. If you want the still photographs from the Walmart search
Oh,
state, so
okay.
it won't be color here. So
All right.
them.
I have them. Okay.
And looking at that, can you determine what the individual that you identified as Mr. Stangeland is purchasing in that photograph?
And that photograph, no, ma'am, I cannot.
What about S-123?
No, ma'am, I cannot. Not from that photograph.
1 minute. And you indicated earlier for on cross-examination that you believe that you observed that he was purchasing some bags of sugar and also a bag of ice,
Correct.
but you didn't recall there being anything else.
No, ma'am.
If I can refer you to your report, that would be page 21 of your report, supplemental narrative CD, dated January 11, 2010. And if you could just review that with the report.
Okay.
And is that refresh recollection as to what objects were being purchased?
Correct,
at the
that,
register?
that was after reviewing the video, yes, ma'am.
And what objects did you determine you could observe on the video?
So shows the male subject purchasing 2 bags of sugar, 1 face mask, and a bag of ice.
So you were able to observe a face mask as well?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, those are the questions I have.
Lieutenant, I didn't hear you at any time necessarily identify the individual shown in S-122 and 123 as being Mr. Stangeland. Am I correct?
From these photos, no, I could not at that time. But after I received the information from Miller County, or my sheriff's office had received information that Mr. Stangeland had been arrested over there, we determined that was probably him in these photos, Judge, based on the statute, or the statute of that subject, walking out in the parking lot, getting into a vehicle that was either similar or was Mr. Stangeland's vehicle.
At the time when you first saw them, I assume December of 2009,
Right, it was December 1st of 2009.
you were not able to look at those photographs and identify that individual as being Mr. Stangeland, correct?
No, sir, was not able to.
And yet you had known him for a number of years prior to that occasion, correct?
Yes, sir.
How long have you known Mr. Stangeland?
I probably met him after July of 2000 or 2001, sometime in that time frame. The Walmart video isn't the best in the world, and a lot of times you can't 100% ID somebody until you get a name to go with it, and then if you get the name to go with it, then you can probably put the two of them together and develop a suspect. Their camera system is normally shot from a distance. It's not a close-up photo that I could tell whether it was you in the photo or not.
I have nothing further.
Nothing else.
Very good. You can step down and watch that platform. We'll take a break, ladies and gentlemen. Before you go, there is a